Hey, Ma, do you know what burst my bubble?
What burst your bubble, honey?
Delusions and psychosis. I often blur fantasy and reality, as you know, right?
Yes.
So cyberbullies, you know how people, interact with me as avatars on social media, and I can believe they're ex-girlfriends or pop superstars undercover.
Well, can I ask what an avatar is? It's like a...
It's like a screen name, like a social media handle. So somebody will interact with me, and like their name will be Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga. Okay. I'll daydream I'm interacting with an ex-girlfriend or an old friend from years ago, or Taylor Swift. But this is probably some sociopathic cyberbully or a scam artist who's duping me, who's deceiving me. Don't daydream. Let it sink in. Realize what these people are, and don't fantasize, basically.
Well, I mean, fantasy. Everybody enjoys a little fantasy, but you can't go off the rails with it.
Yeah, according to Dr. Natural, what I have is I blur fantasy and realities. So I'm unable to tell what's fantasy and what's reality at times. I guess that was from social isolation, being alone in my head constantly. Eventually, the line between fantasy and reality became blurred in my mind.
Let me ask you...
But it's not just on the internet. In real life, I can have this problem, too. I interact with this mental health recovery group, okay?
Right.
Many of them are from the Psychosis Clubhouse, the Fountain House. Many of them are from NAMI. Many of them are, So,
and how is it with them?
There's this one woman who I interact with. Yeah. She's clearly not Lady Gaga. She's not Lady Gaga, but I daydream one of the women I interact with is Lady Gaga, undercover, putting on...
Does she look like her?
Not really. And
so, yeah.
I mean, so this woman isn't Lady Gaga, but I'm daydreaming. It's called double bookkeeping. I half believe this woman is Lady Gaga. I half believe she's not Lady Gaga. And another woman, there's a James Bond movie coming out, and there's a new 007. I forget what the new 007's woman's name is, but I was daydreaming one of the women I was interacting with in my mental health recovery group was the new 007 lady. We were at a restaurant, and we were talking about Dave Chappelle, the comedian. Apparently, Dave Chappelle, when he got famous, at the peak of his fame, he was suffering from psychosis, so he withdrew from the limelight and disappeared from the public eye. Dave Chappelle. He was in the Chappelle Show. He was on Comedy Central. He was pretty... A lot of people
I've seen him.
A lot of people call him a comic genius, saying he's one of the best comedians.
Is he an African American guy? Yeah.
Yes, he is.
I saw him.
So, when I heard Dave Chappelle and him suffering from psychosis, I imagined the waiter at the restaurant was Dave Chappelle undercover. He was scouting me for a comedy. And, pretty soon we're going to make this sensational comedy about mental illness. But the truth is, this is not Dave Chappelle. This is just some restaurant waiter. These are just people from the mental health And, I'm not interacting with undercover celebrities, basically. I'm interacting with people that are struggling with mental health challenges.
This is true.
So, even when I go to the gym, I imagine, a lot of the people are Hollywood undercover watching me. When I go to the comedy class, I imagine, Disney, Universal, Paramount, Sony, or some major motion picture company is in the audience, and they're getting ready to hire me and make me a movie star. But actually, I need to remind myself, remember when I was in the psychiatric hospital in 2011? I often believed, like many of the employees, like many of the nurses and staff workers, were Hollywood undercover. So that wasn't Hollywood undercover. That's about over 10 years ago. And, that Hollywood never discovered me. They were medical workers who were treating me for psychosis. And that's exactly what's going on here. It's not Lady Gaga. It's not Dave Chappelle. It's not the James Bond woman.
But you do know it somewhere in the depth of...
It's called double bookkeeping. Yeah. I half believe... You believe and don't believe a delusion and are unconcerned about the inconsistencies between them. So I sort of believe it's Lady Gaga. I sort of believe it's not. And I just kind of live believing and not believing a delusion.
Let me ask you a question about that, though. Is it a feel-good thing?
I think the reason I started fantasizing and daydreaming was because I felt like a worthless loser. I had no friends. I had no job. I had no money. So I needed fantasy. I needed daydreams to comfort me. So since I was a man-child with no money, wouldn't it be nice if I was a pop superstar? Wouldn't it be nice if I was a movie star? I'd be a millionaire. I'd have tons of friends. So the reason I started daydreaming was because I was suffering from extreme sadness and needed the daydreams to comfort me from that.
But don't you think every human being does that to some, obviously not to the degree. But don't you think, what do you think people go and watch Star Trek?
Yeah, I mean, like Stan Lee of Marvel, the superhero guy. He was a daydreamer. He lived in a fantasy world. Vince McMahon of the WWE, that's a fantasy universe.
Right.
But when you blur the line between fantasy and reality, and you can't tell what's a fantasy land and what's daydream world,
Right.
I mean, that's when the problems arise. I mean, I'm sure Vince McMahon knows, the WWE universe, the WWE characters
Right.
are not real life.
Right.
When my fantasy land can become real to me, I mean, I gotta separate what's a daydream
Let
world.
me ask you something about the non-fantasy land.
Yeah.
The reality land, is that a drag? Is that
I mean,
because it's a lot of hard work.
well, I mean, to make myself a pop superstar, or I'm not gonna pop superstar. I don't compose music, but to make myself a movie star would require a lot of hard work,
But not everybody gets that.
I mean, but like even interacting with ordinary people, like meeting friends and getting a realistic job, that would even, put a, I had.
Is that good enough?
I had no self-esteem in my life. I had nothing that was, making me feel like I was worthwhile. I was
What
a
about
worthless.
your college degree?
I was a worthless loser. I was sitting home all day long.
What about your college degree?
I was sitting home all day long with no friends, no money, no job, and
But what about
I
now?
needed daydreams. I needed
What
fantasy
about
to
now?
comfort me.
But what about now?
Yes, since getting independent in my apartment and meeting friends, I've made a tremendous mental health recovery.
And you do beautiful artwork, and you're in comedy class. You graduated from a top college. I mean, look.
The more I do things in the real world, the need for the fantasy will be less. So
Yes.
if for a while, fantasy universe was outweighing reality. Now reality is starting to rise and fantasy universe is starting to go down. Hopefully someday I'll be in complete reality, no psychosis, and fantasy world will be completely gone.
That is what it is.
And that
You're
is
pushing it.
what it is.
And you have to keep